In the 3rd year of King Jehoiakim's reign in Judah, the powerful king Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon attacked Jerusalem. God allowed this to happen, and Jehoiakim was captured and handed over to Nebuchadnezzar. Along with Jehoiakim, some sacred items from the temple of God were taken to Babylon. These items were stored in the treasure house of Nebuchadnezzar's god in a place called Shinar. Nebuchadnezzar wanted to strengthen his kingdom by selecting young men from the Israelites, especially from the royal family and nobility. He ordered Ashpenaz, the chief of his eunuchs, to find young men who were attractive, healthy, and wise, men who could serve in the king's palace. They were to be taught the language and literature of the Chaldeans. The king provided them with rich food and wine from his own table for 3 years to prepare them for service. Among those chosen were 4 young men from Judah: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The chief eunuch gave them new names. Daniel was called Belteshazzar, Hananiah became Shadrach, Mishael was renamed Meshach, and Azariah was called Abednego. Despite this, Daniel decided not to eat the king's food or drink his wine, as it went against his beliefs and would make him unclean. He asked Ashpenaz for permission to abstain from the royal diet. God granted Daniel favor with Ashpenaz, but the chief eunuch was worried. He feared that if Daniel and his friends looked worse than the others, the king would be angry with him. Daniel then spoke to Melzar, the steward assigned to him, and proposed a test. He asked to eat only vegetables and drink water for 10 days. Melzar agreed. After 10 days, Daniel and his friends looked healthier and better nourished than those who ate the king's food. As a result, Melzar allowed them to continue with their diet of vegetables and water. God's blessings and wisdom. God blessed Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah with knowledge and understanding. Daniel was given the special ability to interpret visions and dreams. When it was time for the king to see the young men, he found that none were as impressive as Daniel and his friends. They stood before Nebuchadnezzar, and he saw they were 10 times wiser than all the magicians and astrologers in his kingdom. Daniel continued to serve in Babylon until the reign of King Cyrus. In the 2nd year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, the king had troubling dreams that disturbed him. He summoned his magicians, astrologers, and sorcerers to interpret the dreams. The king told them he had a dream that troubled him. However, Nebuchadnezzar claimed he could not remember the dream and demanded that they not only tell him the interpretation, but also the dream itself. He warned that if they failed, they would face severe punishment. The wise men protested, saying that no one could meet such a demand. Only the gods could know such secrets. Angered by their inability to help, Nebuchadnezzar ordered the execution of all wise men in Babylon, including Daniel and his friends. When Arioch, the king's captain, came to carry out the king's command, Daniel spoke to him wisely, asking why the king had issued such a harsh decree. After hearing the situation, Daniel requested time to interpret the dream. He returned home and told his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, about the matter. Together, they prayed to God for mercy, seeking understanding of the dream so they wouldn't perish with the other wise men. That night, God revealed the mystery to Daniel through a vision. Daniel praised God, thanking him for wisdom and power. He acknowledged that God changes times and rulers and gives wisdom and knowledge to those who seek him. After receiving the interpretation, Daniel approached Arioch, urging him not to kill the wise men. He asked Arioch to bring him before the king. Interpreting Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Arioch hurriedly brought Daniel to Nebuchadnezzar and announced that he had found someone who could interpret the king's dream. The king asked Daniel if he could reveal both the dream and its meaning. Daniel replied that no wise men could reveal such a secret, but there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. He explained that God had made known to Nebuchadnezzar what would happen in the future. Daniel began to describe the king's dream. He saw a large, shining statue made of various materials. The head was of gold, the chest and arms were silver, the belly and thighs were bronze, the legs were iron, and the feet were a mix of iron and clay. A stone was cut out without human hands and struck the statue's feet, causing the entire statue to crumble. The stone then grew into a mountain that filled the whole earth. Daniel explained that the statue represented different kingdoms. Nebuchadnezzar was the head of gold, and after him, there would be a lesser kingdom represented by the silver. Then a third kingdom, made of bronze, would rule over the whole earth. The fourth kingdom, symbolized by iron, would be strong but divided, represented by the iron mixed with clay. Finally, God would establish a kingdom that would never be destroyed, unlike the others. After hearing this, Nebuchadnezzar fell down and worshipped Daniel, acknowledging that his God was truly the God of gods and a revealer of secrets. The king promoted Daniel and gave him many gifts, making him ruler over the entire province of Babylon and chief over all the wise men. Daniel requested that his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, also be given positions of authority. The fiery furnace. Later, Nebuchadnezzar created a massive golden statue and commanded everyone to bow down and worship it. Those who refused would be thrown into a fiery furnace. When the time came, everyone fell down and worshipped the statue, except for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Certain Chaldeans informed the king that these three men did not worship the statue. Furious, Nebuchadnezzar summoned them and asked if they would bow down. He warned them of the furnace's flames and asked who could save them from such a fate. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego confidently replied that they would not serve his gods or worship the golden image. They believed their God could save them, but they also acknowledged that even if he did not, they would still refuse to bow down. Nebuchadnezzar, filled with rage, ordered the furnace to be heated 7 times hotter and commanded his strongest soldiers to bind the 3 men and throw them into the fire. The flames were so intense that they killed the soldiers who took them there. However, when Nebuchadnezzar looked into the furnace, he saw 4 men walking unharmed in the fire, and the 4th looked like a divine being. Astonished, he called for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to come out of the fire. When they emerged, not a hair on their heads was burned, their clothes were intact, and there was no smell of smoke on them. Nebuchadnezzar praised their God for saving them and declared that anyone who spoke against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego would be punished. He then promoted them in the province of Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar's reflection and praise. Later, Nebuchadnezzar sent a message to all peoples, declaring the signs and wonders that the Most High God had performed. He praised God's everlasting kingdom and acknowledged that God's authority is for all generations. Nebuchadnezzar had another troubling dream, so he summoned the wise men of Babylon to interpret it. However, they could not reveal the meaning. Finally, he called for Daniel, who had proven himself capable in the past. This chapter of Daniel's life in Babylon illustrates themes of faithfulness to God, divine revelation, and the power of God to deliver his faithful servants from danger. The downfall of pride. The story of Nebuchadnezzar also serves as a powerful reminder of the consequences of pride. After recognizing Daniel's ability, Nebuchadnezzar had another troubling dream that he needed interpreted. Upon hearing the dream, Daniel was stunned for an hour, deeply troubled by its meaning. The king urged him not to be disturbed, and Daniel began to explain the dream's significance. The dream was about a large tree that grew tall and strong, visible to all the earth. It provided shelter and food for animals and birds. Daniel revealed that the tree represented Nebuchadnezzar himself. However, the dream included a warning. A holy messenger from heaven commanded that the tree be cut down, leaving only the stump and roots. This signified that Nebuchadnezzar would be driven away from people and live like an animal, eating grass until he recognized that God rules over all kingdoms. Daniel warned Nebuchadnezzar that this would happen unless he changed his ways and showed mercy to the poor. However, Nebuchadnezzar did not heed this warning. A year later, while walking on the roof of his palace, the king boasted about the greatness of Babylon. He declared that it was built by his might and honor. As he spoke, a voice from heaven declared that his kingdom would be taken from him. Nebuchadnezzar lost his sanity, living like an animal and eating grass. After some time, his mind was restored. He lifted his eyes to heaven and praised God, acknowledging his everlasting kingdom and authority over all. His honor was returned, and he became even greater than before, proclaiming the greatness of God's works. This story emphasizes the importance of humility and recognizing God's sovereignty. The mighty king learned a valuable lesson. Those who walk in pride will be humbled.
If you found this video enjoyable, please consider liking and sharing it. Additionally, subscribing to this channel will ensure that you receive more updates in the future. Thank you.